Hey, what's going on, everyone? As you can tell from the decor and whatnot, we're going to be trying an outdoor video. I know it's been requested on the channel quite a bit, and I figured I might as well try to do two things at once with sort of doing my outdoor literary walks and actually getting some wrap-ups done. I haven't done any since returning to BookTube, and I'm going to try to be a completionist, and we're going to try to bang out January through April, like just back to back to back, and then try to be able to do May kind of right on time when it's actually supposed to be done and whatnot. So we're just going to go over things up pretty quickly. Usually the way I do my wrap-ups, I kind of just bring everything up a little bit and then I just kind of talk about my favorites for a little bit longer. Hopefully the crunching and the grass and everything's not going to be too crazy, but let's just see how this goes. Alright, so I read 14 books in January because all the stars aligned. I was kind of psyching myself up for BookTube. Work stress was going down, and it was also like the dead of winter, so there wasn't like tons to do. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So first up, we got a very short history of life on Earth, 4.6 billion years and 12 pithy chapters. This is by Henry Gee. I didn't think it was very remarkable. It was pretty unrememberable and whatnot. Just kind of a history of the story of like the evolution of life on Earth from the beginning and everything, but it was almost like so condensed there just wasn't a whole lot kind of going on to learn about and everything. Maybe if it's like your absolute just first kind of foray into that, maybe you didn't take any like biology classes in school or anything, I don't know. Just didn't really do anything for me. I think it's kind of part of like a series. There's a whole bunch of like short histories of this, that, and the other thing, so I think that's kind of what I was going for. Rooted, Life at the Crossroads of Science, Nature, and Spirit by Leanda Lindhaupt. This one was pretty good. I think I had kind of psyched myself up a little bit. A couple years ago when it came out, it was just a super popular book, and it was like everyone's favorite nature work and everything. I thought it was okay, nothing super crazy. I'm glad I read it more than like I didn't read it, but I've read better memoirs, I guess, in the kind of nature category. We got some Warhammer books. The Court of the Blind King by David Geimer. It's just it was okay. It's just kind of a fun adventure novel if you like elves that live under the sea and stuff. It's kind of a shame that that's the only Idoneth Deepkin novel that's out there for those who know Age of Sigmar stuff. Next up is another Warhammer 40K, or this one's a 40K one. We got Volpone Glory by Nick Kime, and I am glad I wore my boots. Holy cow. And this is why we have a thing called mud season up here. Wah, wah, wah. Holy cow. Well, made it out of that treacherous morass there. I don't know how well this is going at all. Anyways, the next one was a 40K one if I remember. We got Volpone Glory by Nick Kime. If you like Imperial Guard, I think you'll like this one. I had a lot of fun with it. I thought it was definitely one of the better ones they put out for Imperial Guard stuff, if you know what that is. Then we got a very short introduction. I read the Oxford very short introduction for volcanoes. I actually feel like I learned quite a bit. The writing was pretty just, average science writing, but I don't really know a whole lot about volcanoes, so I feel like I kind of made it out quite well. I learned a lot in that regard, and I'll probably actually try to pick up maybe a more in-depth book on the topic now because of it. Alright, let's see, we got Good Enough let's see, what is it? Good Enough? The Tolerance for Mediocrity in Nature and Society by Daniel Milo. And this is all about sort of in regards to like evolutionary theory and natural selection, how nature kind of lets a lot of just very mid-tier traits survive for long periods of time in the evolutionary record, and why you don't necessarily have to be in the top like 1% or even like 5% really to pass on your genes to the next generation and stuff. I thought it was okay. I think the argument was just a little overblown because like no one was really like arguing against that per se, so I'm not really sure what the audience was like I said, what we were supposed to actually take away or who he was like arguing against. Let's see, next up we got another Warhammer one that I forgot to mention. We got Dante by Guy Haley, and if you like the Blood Angels for 40k stuff, you'll definitely like Dante. You need to read it. Like, that's just going to be like one of the, I don't want to say seminal, that's kind of a weird one for 40k stuff, but that's definitely going to be one of the major players here for 40k stuff. Alright, and we got a lot of tracks and things in here too as well. Who knows what we're going to find out here. Let me know if you see Bigfoot or a moose or a black bear in the background of my videos or anything along those lines. Alright, let's see. Oh, I did finish The Fellowship of the Ring. I'm not going to talk about it too much because this was like a reread. I tried to finish that one actually at the end of last year, but I just technically finished it. And it was literally, I think it was New Year's Day. I had like the last like 2 or 3 chapters. So technically it counts as a read for this year. Alright, so now we're going to go on to some of the ones that I actually like quite a bit. We have Praetorian, The Rise and Fall of Rome's Imperial Bodyguard by Guy de la Baudoyer. I think that's how you say it. And I feel like I learned a ton. There's a lot of memes and jokes about the Praetorian Guard. You know, they are the sort of the Emperor's bodyguard during the imperial period of the Roman Empire. And, you know, it's kind of justified most of the time. The Praetorians shanked so many of their emperors, like, it's not even funny. But it's kind of a fun history book, kind of going through the entire history of, you know, how they were formed and their, like, dissolution under, like, Severus and everything. So you got a couple centuries here of just, you know, absolute chaos, and kind of going into the details, you know, when they literally sell the emperorship to the highest bidder at one point. It's pretty crazy. Just so you know, don't buy it if you ever come across that in an auction house. I really encourage people to read it. It just shows how cutthroat, like, you couldn't trust anyone as far as, like I said, when you're in Imperial Rome. Like, you have to have the support of the people, the Senate, and the soldiers, but definitely the soldiers was the one to kind of keep in the forefront there. Next up is a really fun classical history book that I read, sort of, I guess classical history related. How to Be, Life Lessons from the Early Greeks by Adam Nicholson. So he's got a whole bunch of books kind of going on. I've read his, was it Why Homer Matters, a long time ago, and I really enjoyed it. But he's also got some like natural history-ish related books. He's got like The Seabird's Cry. It's like, jump over this tree. He's got The Seabird's Cry, as well as A Life Between the Tides, I think it is. Really enjoyed, or I guess I haven't read those ones, but I really need to get to them. I keep meaning to, and I keep end up reading his history books for whatever reason. Like I said, I've been enjoying them so far. This is all about kind of going through a lot of the Greek thinkers, especially kind of in the age of like the pre-Socratics, and then into like the kind of the classical age of Greece and everything, and just learning a lot about how they, you know, decided to live their lives, what was important, what wasn't important, you know, what to focus on, and that sort of stuff. I just really enjoy kind of reflections like that. And of course, you know, the author is like putting little vignettes in where he's like sailing around the Greek islands and everything. So you kind of get jealous a little bit, but I really enjoyed it. Next up is a weird history book called Exercised, Why Something We Never Evolved to Do is Healthy and Rewarding by Daniel Lieberman. And obviously I kind of just picked this one up just because I thought it was going to be like kind of a history of exercise. Wasn't quite what I was thinking it was going to be, but it was still really good. So it's all about, the premise is, why do we do things like exercise, whether that's, you know, running or lifting weights, this, that, and the other thing, if our ancestors like never really did. And he kind of goes over how, you know, life was different back then compared to like how generally our sedentary lives are and everything. But it's kind of interesting learning about a bunch of different cultures that just put not physical fitness per se, but just physical activity to the forefront, and how different kind of their health and lives and outlook on things are, and I just found that really inspiring in a lot of ways. Plus, you learn a bunch of tidbits, like I guess I always thought it was a joke that people could actually outrun horses over long distances, but it's like entirely true. Even the author said he's a pretty average runner, and he was able to do it. And I just thought stuff like that was actually pretty interesting. And then we got two books on bees actually. We got, Thor Hansen's Buzz, The Nature and Necessity of Bees. I really enjoyed. I love Thor Hansen's writing. I got to do a review of his Hurricane Lizards and Plastic Squid actually pretty soon here. But everything I think I've read. I think this is the fourth book I've read by him. Just a really great natural history writer on a couple of different topics and whatnot. Just have a lot of fun. Just really down to earth. But you also kind of get like the care and everything about like the environment shown through his writing and whatnot. Just really enjoy it for sure. And then the other one I liked a little bit better. Granted, I've read like a bunch of books on bees, but this one is definitely one of probably my top two. It's Our Native Bees, North America's Endangered Pollinators and the Fight to Save Them by Paige Embry. I don't know if she has other works and whatnot, but this one was just really good. It's all about kind of the latest research into bees, neonicotinoids and how they're kind of screwing them up, different pesticides that are, vaguely cleared to be safe for them, but they're probably not, things like that. But also a bunch of like little detailed vignettes of different entomologists who study bees in particular, obviously, but how even in our own lifetimes, some of these researchers, there's been several bee species that have gone extinct that they started their research with, and then they've just been disappearing because the populations can't be sustained and whatnot. It's just heartbreaking when you read about things like that. And there's one professor that goes out every year, they haven't been seen for a couple, I think 2 decades or something now. He goes out to where they used to be just to see if they'll ever come back and everything. And, like I said, it just kind of puts it into perspective. And then lastly is a medieval history book. It's like the only really good medieval history book that I've read so far this year. We got, The Perfect Sword, Forging the Dark Ages by Paul Gething. And this is all about the Bramberg sword, which is just a really high quality sword from the Dark Ages. I can't remember if it was 6th or 7th centuries CE in England during like kind of the Anglo-Saxon era. But there's almost like a funny story. It was uncovered in Bramberg Castle, I think in the 60s, if I remember correctly. And then the archaeologist who found it, like, put it, he noted it and everything, put it away in like a suitcase, and then like forgot about it for like decades. And then I think after he passed, people like rediscovered it through his notes and stuff, or something wacky like that. So it wasn't until I think 2000, 2001, something around there. The other archaeologists that were kind of going through the records and notes and everything were like, wait a second, there's supposed to be like a sword, how come we don't have the sword? Then they end up finding it. And after they did all this study and research on it, they realized this has got to be like one of the most highest quality Anglo-Saxon swords that, has ever been found and whatnot. So I found that really interesting. They were discussing how, since it was welded, pattern welded from I think 5 or 6 like ingots of iron and everything, it was just the technology and the process of making it was just super complicated for the time, and it probably took approximately like 2 months to do, and the cost would have been super extravagant. So they were kind of like speculating on, whose sword would it have been, stuff like that. So it had to have been some sort of like, royalty during kind of the Saxon period. I just found it really interesting. I learned a ton of like tidbits on, you get a lot of the contextual stuff of the Dark Ages. How did blacksmiths actually go about, working on things? Where'd they get their material from? How are they actually doing stuff? You get a little bit of kind of like the modern culture on that as well. So I just found it really cool. You learn a bunch of tidbits as well. Like I said, I learned about, the Irish monks and how they had like harnessed some tidal power and stuff. I just found that really fascinating as well. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this kind of video. Try to be a little bit more organized. I gotta actually clear my paths out. As you can see, like some of them are pretty, well actually this is like the nice open area. Some of the paths are pretty bad. banged up because I haven't been out here yet this year, just because unfortunately we have snow and more snow, and then we have mud for ever and ever and ever. So like I said, we're just I'm going to chip away at it for a little while and then see how that goes, and I hope to catch you all in the next video. Let me know if you enjoy these nature ones, and hopefully it didn't come out too bad, and we'll just see it from there. Thank you so much, and always remember, read victoriously.